here's another big question. To what extent is it the responsibility of employer organisations to represent the overall reputation of business? Now, what I mean by this is it our job to just fight the corner for our members, to make sure everything's okay for the individual companies, to push back on regulation? Or should we have a bigger agenda, which is the overall reputation of business in our country? Another one is the CBI campaign, which they launched. So this is the main business organisation in the UK. After the downturn, after the financial crisis and all the banks, the reputation of business generally is very, very low. And their approach was to start with this, to have an open debate, not to sort of just say, we're going to counter this, we're going to come out and fight you. So I say, okay, fine. If people think business is bad, let's have a debate. Let's discuss it. Why do you think business is bad? And let's start by doing a survey, which was an interesting way of doing it. And the findings were quite negative, actually. Only 32% of people in the UK think that the majority of businesses behave ethically. Very low. Only 53% of people in the UK believe businesses make a positive contribution to society. Interesting, isn't it? Why do you think the CBI started with that survey? To inform their position. Their reputation. To know their reputation. To know where we are. Yeah. But also, it gives you an opportunity
to measure success.
To manage expectations, but also to manage success. Yeah. So if they're saying we're going to have this big debate and we're going to take on board what people are saying, and maybe we do have a responsibility to try and get some bits to do things differently, or sometimes it might be we need to communicate the value that we do better. Sometimes it might be we do need to do things differently. So we, as the employer organisation, are going to take responsibility for this. We're starting a journey that might take a few years. We're starting from a low base, but when we come back and look at this in 3 years, hopefully these figures have changed. So that's the idea. So that's why you kind of do that. So the CBI campaign is interesting. The bottom set, 85% of businesses think businesses are accountable for improving the quality of life, which again, that's interesting. So it just shows that there's a responsibility on business and people recognise that. So the great business debate, and it's trying to get big employers involved, you know. So Barclays, the big bank, have been quite active in it. And again, it's about showcasing the force for good. So that sort of campaign, it can't just be driven by the employer organisation. You've got to get your members quite active, haven't you? They've got to be willing to come forward, etc., which comes back to that engagement side of things that we'll talk about a little bit. So that was a good example, and I think there's been a shift. I think more employer organisations get it. Because let's not forget, what drives regulations and all these things in our sector? Often it's perception, isn't it? We think there's a problem with the business community. We're going to go and sort them out. Okay? And politicians will go often where public opinion is. Okay? So we speak to a lot of our sister federations, and they say, do you know what? We go and see the minister. He says, do you know what? I get it. I do get it. But I can't possibly do that because the voters will kick me out. So in reality, I think one of the messages when we think about communication, when we talk about lobbying, and you guys are going to talk about lobbying tomorrow, but often you need to focus on public opinion as much as with politicians, because politicians will go where the public opinion is, which comes back to how you use the media, how you use social media, how do you try and change perceptions. Politicians will go where they think the people are. So sometimes the challenge for us is we need to move that.